Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Freddie Kimmel. Thanks for coming back on for the third time. Good to
Oh my
see you.
goodness, three? Yes.
Yeah.
I
You're
love it.
now you're up there competing with our dad, right?
Oh
Third time
boy.
guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
No pressure. No pressure.
No, I need to have you and your dad on to talk about your dental procedure, which I'm so interested in.
Oh, yeah. Hence why my smile is still a little. If anyone's watching on YouTube, my smile's still not quite back, but I can talk, so that's good. But yeah, a lot to unpack with that. And a topic that ties into that is the lymphatic system.
Yeah.
I've been doing some things with that because dental work obviously plays a big role with that. But we wanted to bring you back on to talk more about that. So we'll link to our previous episodes in the show notes so people can go back and hear um our first year of podcasting. We had you on. You told a lot about your health story, your journey,
Hmm.
and then we had you back on. We talked more about like amp coil, PEMF, things like that. So today we're going to talk about your other specialty. You know so much. You know so much. But lymphatic system. So it's exciting to see the lymph and the lymphatic system. It's getting, I would say, some press, some PR.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if that's just from social media or more podcasting, but it's hopefully opening the conversation because this is a very overlooked thing. And I've even experienced this with traditional medicine doctors. Like they kind of write it off. They don't really acknowledge that it's something we need to be talking about and doing stuff about. So we wanted to bring this to our audience. So if you can do maybe like an elevator pitch real quick, like what
Hmm.
is the lymphatic system for someone that is still unsure of this mysterious thing running through our body? What is it?
Yeah. I have to apologize for my Instapot that just told me my chicken dinner is done. If that beeping was happening in the
Oh,
background.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it. It must be a
We
really
didn't,
good
Wonder
mic.
but I was going to
wonderful.
say if you wanted to start with a song, you could do that. But maybe the Instant Pot is singing for you.
The Instapot sang. I know. The lymphatic system, near and dear to my heart, God bless my health journey, is something I never worked with in the throes of both metastatic cancer and chronic illness, autoimmunity, and Lyme. It wasn't a system I complemented. When I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, the primary tumor had spread to about 9 tumors in my peritoneum cavity in the belly, and those were all lymph nodes. So when I finished chemo and I finished my surgery, one thing they did was they opened up my abdomen and they had taken out any lymph node that was impacted and then 80 others. So I have like 80 surgical clips in my belly. And one thing that always frustrated me was like I was dancing a lot before I did this big surgery, and I could never get my belly flat this in the same way. Um, and part of that was because I had compromised this drainage system, which is managing fluid balance within the body. And as I started to look into, it's like, well, what are the responsibilities of the role of the lymphatic system? Because the only time anybody ever mentioned it to me was, oh my God, how unfortunate that your cancer spread there. And when I cracked what was the science and the regulatory properties of the lymphatic system, my mind was absolutely blown. I had no idea that the lymphatic system has 3 times as much fluid as the circulatory system, but there is no pump to drive it. I had no idea that our whole immune system is essentially born in the lymphatics, in a lymph node. Our NK killer cells are born in a lymph node. They need no further maturation around the body. They just go off and they fight cancer. And how lymphatics flows is how that system facilitates the entry into all the organs and other compartments of the body. I had no idea that the B cells and the T cells are born in a lymph node. They go off to develop in the thymus and the bones. I mean, it is like your immune response, your immune regulatory response. And so it's so important to understand that we have, this, it's really your inner shield that needs to move. It needs movement. I had no idea that the lymphatic system is comprised of smooth muscle and does in fact like the muscles of the heart when we're in parasympathetic, it's very effective at moving fluid. When we're in parasympathetic, when we're in stressed or fight or flight, there is almost like a stasis within the system. And so we can bring it offline based on behavior or lifestyle. And for me, I got into it because I had a woman reach out from a company called Flowpresso, which I know your family knows very well, which is a full body lymphatic drainage suit. And I just started having these like I would get pretty like intense like headaches and fatigue and full body sweats after I would do a session. And when I first got the technology, I was doing it way too much. I did it like 4 days in a row, and you're really supposed to wait. And so what was happening for me is I was moving so much of the environmental burden, be it old viral proteins or old bacteria, through the lymphatic nodes. And you can think about when things move through a lymph node, the immune system is like just like a target employee is like kind of like, ooh, bacteria, virus, metal, and it's tagging it. And if there's enough like bad guys that move through the node, we'll get a response. Just like when you have enough like bacteria from strep moving through the nodes in your neck, your tonsils start to swell up, right? Those glands start to mobilize a response as a first defense. And that was happening to me. So I was like, there is so much to unpack in my understanding. And I talked to a woman yesterday and she's like, oh my God, after all the things, how are you? And I was like, I'm the best I've ever been. I have the least pain I've ever had. I have the most muscle mass I've ever had. I have the best energy I've ever had. And it's really fun to like, I mean, frustrating to learn it this late in my journey, but also like, wow, what another great tool I can like better understand the body and why it responds in this unique way on my journey.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
very
hear that.
powerful.
I feel that frustration as well. Like, why didn't we learn this sooner? One, because there's so many simple strategies to engage with your lymphatic system. And there's kind of a
Hmm.
spectrum, right? The Flowpresso, which is something that you have to either seek out in a clinic or invest in. Absolutely amazing. And I want to talk about what that technology is. But there are simple ways in our lifestyle that we can engage with this and make this better. And I see it with clients all the time. They know about their lymph nodes, but no one ever told them what that means. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing clients with the Pampa program that are chronically having lymph node inflammation or
Hmm.
stagnation. I said, did a doctor ever talk to you about this? No, no, no. It's just my lymph nodes are just swollen. Period. Like nothing after that. But
Yeah.
there's something we can do.
There's so
Mm.
much. There's so much we can do. I mean, Desiree Despong, who invented Flowpresso, is a great educator. There's a guy online, Perry Mickelson, who is wonderful. He has a program called The Big Six, which you can YouTube and you can
Oh, yeah.
look at hitting the big
Isn't it?
six. I thought he said the big six. Maybe he's changed it to eight.
I think he does eight because he starts with the opening. So we'll just
Hmm.
for the audience, he starts with
Yeah.
open clavicles,
Yep. Here.
lymph nodes under behind the jaw,
Hmm.
pectorals or armpits,
Armpit.
stomach,
Axillary. Yep.
stomach, abdominals,
Yep.
groin,
Hmm.
behind the knees,
Yep.
and then he stands and rebounds like pump
Mm.
abs. Is
Yeah.
that one,
One,
What if
two,
I got a
two,
seven?
four, five,
three,
six,
4, 5, 6.
seven?
Yeah. The bounding is another one, sure. Yeah, it's popliteals are behind the knee, inguinal are in the groin. You have a big cluster of lymph nodes in the belly, in the deep peritoneum, called the cisterna chyli. And that's a really interesting one because that's the one, it's under your organs. Who has their belly? Do you ever have your belly worked on or belly massaged or belly touched? It's rare that we ever
Not
get in
often.
here.
Such a
And what,
vibrant area. Most people are like, don't touch me there.
right,
Only
right.
when
And
I've done lymphatic massages, and they're always like, "Are you okay if I touch your stomach?" I'm like, "Yes, please."
yeah.
But it
Yeah,
does feel a little weird at first. You're like, "No one's ever done this."
you'll
Okay.
get this great gurgling effect if you can really get it right and it can actually that structure can harden. It could mine used to feel like a rock when I first started 2 years ago before I met Desiree. It was hard. I mean, I could touch it. I was like, what is that? It's like a stone. She's like, that's your cisterna chyli. It has no pliability. And what it does is when you get this big duct down here, it almost creates a vacuum from all the lower lymph and it helps it push up through the body. So the belly is so important. This is a big reason why people ask me online. They're like, oh, I just want to get something for lymph. Can I get the Normatec compression boots? And my answer is always you can, but it's not lymph. It's good for lactic acid, athletic recovery, but essentially once you move it into the groin, I mean, imagine someone like me who's had 80 lymph nodes removed. If I push that fluid up into my belly and then I stand up, it's not going anywhere. We really got to you gestured here, your subclavian, right at the base of the neck is where your lymphatic system links back into your circulatory system. And then it enters the blood, it changes blood viscosity, and then it goes through the liver. So this is a route, right? We talk a lot about detoxification. We really want to like kind of reframe that for people when we're talking about lymph. We want to say drainage. That's why we say lymphatic drainage. I like to think of it like Mario Brothers. You know, there's all the pipes and the tubes that you can go down to connect to different worlds. Not so dissimilar within the body and the lymphatic system. But we want to
Plumbing.
get all, yeah, plumbing, right? Internal plumbing. If you look at a map of the circulatory system and you can see, we all know the circulatory system, you can overlay the lymphatic, and it's like is very, very similar. I think, and again, I'm not a medical practitioner or a doctor, but it's like almost like 70% is served on this left side over here, and then there's a little duct over here on the right that does like 30%. And most of your lymph, 70% of your lymph is just subcutaneous. It's just under the skin. You know, if we squeeze right down to the bone and do like really deep pressure, we actually push past the lymph. But it's this gentle touch. It's almost like this gentle movement or hugging, which complements lymphatic flow. And then we have that 30% that's deep in the belly that we talked about that we don't really, you know, we don't touch our belly. There's Mayan abdominal massage, which is wonderful. But back to this belly area, you know, you get so much, you get bile flow, you get all these other organs that are stimulated as a result of the fluid being deburdened from that area. And, you know, to your point, Lauren, when you talk to people and they're like, oh, there's, you know, there's, I'm talking to my doctor and my lymph nodes are swollen, and they say, okay, you know, next. We don't pause there. We don't think about it. And I experience that all the time. I just went to a medical convention and I talked to over 1,000 doctors over the weekend. I bet you five or six, and I'm being super generous, understood anything of what we were. You know, they knew the word, they knew what a node was, they knew what happened with cancer spread there. That was
Mm.
about it. And they looked
Wow.
at, you know, they look at these therapies. They're like, oh, well, I don't have anybody with lymphedema. So that's not really
No.
something for me to work on. It's not real. I don't do that. I've had people say, "Oh, I don't do lymph. I don't like that. I don't, it's weird." Like
Wow.
that's a real common,
Lymph will do you. But
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
needs it.
Yeah, that's the norm. You know, there's a huge gap in education. If I had a magic wand for the industry, I'd be like, this has to go back into medical training 101 for everybody because there's so many things that are improved. You know, the one I love is like non-healing diabetic wounds, which you're like, why would you want to
Mm.
do pressure or compression, you know, over an open wound? Well, it dramatically accelerates the healing as you move all of those different components of our immune system to the area that has failed to have like good blood flow, oxygenation of the tissue, which is
Mm.
directly related to lymph. If you think about lymph as a plasma, right? And it's a thick plasma. Um, when it enters back into the circulatory system, it changes the viscosity of the blood. So you get a circulatory boost. It's a secondary effect. You know, everything's working together. It's not, you can't say I don't work with one and it's not related because it will change the outcomes for everything. It's really wild.
Yeah.
Mm.
I, what about our ancestors? I always like think back. So now we have, you know, dry skin brushing, massages, we have things, vibrating tools,
Mhm.
Flowpresso, and we need it in today's world. Obviously, it's a very toxic world. Is that why? Like our ancestors, I can't imagine were like, let me buy a tramp or build a trampoline from the local whatever and jump on it. Like, was this a problem for them? Do we know? Or was there something naturally they were doing to support this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the conversation that you ladies and I both love is that we have fallen out of the guiding principles that govern nature. And that is a big one is movement. You know, it's move,
Yeah.
move, move. And you know how, you know, the studies look at how, you know, sitting undoes the value of your 1 hour, bike ride or your 1 hour CrossFit workout. It doesn't do it. It's a body that is in motion, stays in motion. And there is certainly a case to be made for the environmental impact of what we are struggling with right now. You know, I love stats, but I also think stats can really sway the story to a negative way to confirm your bias. In the United States alone, glyphosate production is, since its inception, it's up 15,000%. I think it's 1.34 kilograms on our food supply per every American in the United States. This is a
Ugh.
dramatic change from European nations. Dramatic. And we've all heard the stories of I can go there and eat the pizza and I lose weight and I'm not bloated and I drank and everything was great. I've experienced that. I
Same.
was eating pasta, bread, and pizza. I
Yeah,
never
wine,
thought it.
cheese. Yeah.
I would not have believed it because I was so sensitive. I was that sensitive in individual human being, unless I had experienced that. So you have glyphosate, which is an anti-nutrient, inhibiting the binding of so many minerals. And if I think about myself like a little machinery, which is a very intelligent quantum computer, minerals are the parts that I need to rebuild my car as I drive a certain number of miles every single day. And that's an inhibitory nature happening within that glyphosate consumption every single day, all day. And it doesn't, even if you eat organic, I promise you, we could run a glyphosate test on you and we could see a burden, unless, you're doing some serious work with the terrain and longevity and the saunas and the sweating and the binding and all those things to help deburden that from the system. So I think environmental toxicant. I think the lack of movement, and then I would also say, because again, the smooth muscle piece. We can think about the functionality of the heart and its beauty when we're in parasympathetic, and the lymph system is no different. So you can create a stasis or a freezing within our nervous system. You can create it in the lymph. You can also create it through a chronic infection, chronic Epstein-Barr, Lyme disease. This is one of my favorite discoveries for me with Lyme, was that the bacterial infections they could impact just the popliteals behind the knee. That presence of a
Mm.
high bacteria load in the knee can affect drainage in that knee. And that was me. That
Mm.
was me. That's what I've experienced. No C-reactive protein, no antinuclear antibodies, no autoimmunity. But I would get fluid around the knee. I mean, a lot of fluid. Lauren, did I ever show you when I was really having a bad flare, but maybe like in Connecticut or something?
I remember your knees. Yeah.
Yeah, like no kneecaps. I'm like, no
No
kneecaps.
kneecaps. Oh
No
no.
kneecaps. Um, so sad. I love a kneecap. It's funny.
I love a good kneecap.
I notice men when they have a great head of hair. I'm like, oh, this is a great head of hair. And then I notice when people have like really defined kneecaps, because I mean, now mine are getting much better. I wish I could get my kneecap. I don't think I can in this chair. Get it
What
up
a
on
health
camera.
goal. More defined kneecaps. I'm going to put that on any intake form that I fill out from
Can
now
we
on.
make a reel where we're
Oh
just
my God.
like walking? We're like, nice knee. Oh, that's the meme when the guy's like looking over his shoulder. He's like, nice kneecaps.
Oh, yeah,
We've talked about cankles
yeah.
forever. Now we need to
Right.
talk inflamed kneecaps.
Mm,
We need a new
mm,
word for it, though.
Yeah.
yeah.
At the end of this podcast, we'll have one. But
Yeah.
okay. I want to come back to more of the chronic illness, the Lyme, the Epstein-Barr. But if we were to zoom
Hmm.
to the other end of the spectrum, I believe everyone needs lymphatic support. And maybe it's
Hmm.
just prevention, like may you not ever know what is coming to you.
Hmm.
But can we drop into maybe some of the subtle signs and symptoms that you have congestion in your lymphatic system?
Any pain, any
Any
pain. Lymphatic dysfunction. My mentors would make the case that pain is synonymous with lymphatic dysfunction, and that when you're having all this fluid bathe in a joint or an area or a tennis elbow or wherever your pain is, that the fluid is impacting how the nerves are speaking to each other, how they're rebuilding, how they're especially after damage or an injury, how they're repairing. Growing new neural pathways or lymph angiogenesis, regrowing lymph network into the area. So they would say that is any type of pain, That's going to be directly related to fluid balance. I think the one thing the general public may be able to relate to is just stiffness, and this will be on a scale for everybody. It's like, how do you feel when you're like on like a New York to LA flight? Is there any stiffness at all? And that's a great example where we've probably changed your CO2 that you're breathing in the airplane. We've probably changed the amount of oxidative stress from being up in the altitude, and then we've taken away all movement, right? We probably changed your breathing as well because for some people flying is stressful. So we've changed your nervous system tone. So as a result of that, I could say, what is your pain scale like after you fly? And for me, I've really got to do some like hacking to make sure that I'm set up for success, be it compression pants, which help with circulation and lymphatic flow, or doing some type of a vibration tool on the plane where I can help my lymph node centers while I'm on the plane, and I'll notice a dramatic difference. So that would be one area. Now this shocked me too because I always assumed that when you're fit and your musculature is supporting movement, right? We get a defined musculature on the skeletal system and good proprioception and good mechanics that definitely helps lymphatic flow. But from what I've heard, and from lymphologists and people that work in the space, even looking at professional athletes, firefighters who are super active, they have incredibly compromised lymphatic systems. And just because you look healthy or fit or you think it's all good, it doesn't necessarily test that way. And one way we could test, we could use there's a device called the Sozo Biz. It's a funny name for a device, but it's like a
How do you
FDA
spell that?
equivalent. Sozo, Sozo, I think hyphen Biz, Sozo Biz. I'll look that up for you and maybe get you the name for the show notes. People are like, he just made up a word.
So
But
big,
Those are
a good nickname.
now in the USA, there's InBody, like the InBody
oh,
above, I believe it's above the 7,700 model, will get a metric using bioimpedance through the feet and the hands. So they're going to send a current, a high and a low frequency. One of the currents has movement through the 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 fluid outside of the cell, and one of the frequencies has a movement for the fluid inside the cell. It's going to the time it passes through the body. So they're doing a little bioimpedance, and they're going to measure or approximate your intracellular to extracellular fluid ratio. And that is a great way to see where your lymphatic system is at, how much fluid. I think 2/3 of the water should be in the cell, 1/3 should be outside of the cell, ideally. If that ratio is off, it's going to impact ion flow in and out of the cell. It's going to impact how the cell would ever let go of garbage. If you
I'm
think about
grabbing
that
my
ratio.
InBody. I'm grabbing my result.
Okay.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
see.
Freddie, it's interesting what you said about like muscle tone and things. The first time I had a Mayan abdominal massage, she told me, she said, you need to stop doing so much abdominal work, like crunches
Mm,
and stuff. She was like, your abs are so tight. She was like, it looks
mm,
great, but she's
mm.
like, you're messing up the flow of your lymph there. It's like,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is, who was I listening to the other day? Oh, I watched yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. I was watching a series on Amazon Prime, and one of the main characters was like, he's a big guy, and he's like, why? Like, let's see how much we can bench press against these other guys. Like, no, that's stupid. Why do you guys invent things to like move heavy? Why not? He was like, go split wood, go hunt an elk and drag it back to your cabin. Go exert the energy in a way that like energetically, it's like nature understands. Like, well, yeah, he needs great quads and great glutes because he's got to
Yeah.
drag this elk back. But we make up exercises. We create routine, and a lot of times, we have a bias in my brain. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, there's body types that I want. I want to look like that, but is that good? Is that bad? It definitely plays
Yeah.
into the functionality of the internal milieu or the organ systems. And there's a lot more, I think, that we don't know, functional movement strength, like a check movement analysis, right? Lauren, you're going to see different things where a person might look really strong, but really in reality, it's kind of like a little bit of a house of cards. Now, I see this all the time in, when you go to the gym and you see a guy that's so big on top and it's just this big V muscle, and then you can see like they get this great big concave back and a protuberant belly and all these other, you can almost like, I
Yeah.
don't know if you see this, Lauren, you're like, oh, I bet I know what workout you do.
Oh, for sure.
I bet I know what your thing is. Like, um, I've been
Oh
really into,
gosh, trap scapula raises?
Straps and
Oh
chest.
gosh, I hate the.
Not a lot of mobility.
no, I mean, listen, and I'm guilty as the next person. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of sitting. I'm try to be as aware as I can, but I train against the sedentary or the amount of sitting I do. My workouts are mostly PT. I mean, you wouldn't, it'd be mostly be like, oh, that's not a work. What are you doing? But it's mostly like I'm trying to regain strength at the end ranges of motion, which I've lost that I can no longer do. So I'm trying to stretch that. Um, yeah.
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 But we don't have to do hard workouts to support our lymph. Like simple things, walking, rebounding. Even I'm just sitting here like pumping my calves up and down.
hmm Yeah. Now my
Hmm.
tech hack, and I didn't do it. I was going to do it. I use oh, they're going to kill me that I forgot the name. All I can see
Uh-oh.
is like an N on it. Oh, it's the H wave.
Naboso.
It's the
Oh,
H
each way.
wave.
Hmm.
Yeah. So H wave is it is a direct current device with a high and low frequency, not like NewFit, but it's just pumping muscles. So I'll put that on my VMO and I'll put it on the outside of my tib on each knee when I'm doing podcasts, and I'm getting like it's like I'm walking, right? I'm not walking, I'm not doing an exercise, but I'm getting a pump through that joint. I could do my hips, I could do my back, I can do my jaw for like TMJ, and I'll get movement
Hmm.
through that joint if I can't. That's one way I would engineer around that. And that's a FDA cleared device for lymphatic flow, medical device. Yep.
Yeah.
That's EMS. What's the technology?
It's direct current.
Direct current. Okay.
Yeah, it's direct current. I've not
Oh,
had them on a podcast yet.
okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Like
but I know Kelly Starrett raves about it. And when he had his joint replacement, he was like, that was an absolute savior for me because I was limited by what I could do after my procedure.
Hmm. I probably should have been using that. All right, Lauren, what does your InBody say?
show and tell. And then I have something else. I'm thinking of all
Do
the
you
things.
have it in a do you have it in a PDF?
Yeah, I could send it to you.
Yeah, will you send it to me? I can
Oh,
do a deeper analysis if you want.
I would love that. Okay.
Mm.
So it measured intracellular water in pounds and extracellular water.
Mm-hmm.
My intracellular was 48.1 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Extracellular was 28.7. I'm curious where the rest of the 100 or that those are pounds. That's not a percentage.
Okay.
Percent.
Yeah.
And then there's also an extracellular water by total body water percentage at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll have to share this whole thing and we'll do another video review.
Yeah.
I
If
have
you
mine too, so we'll do.
email me the PDF,
Okay.
email me the PDF because I learned. So I went through the biological medicine training certification again for fun because I'm not practicing medicine, but I like to learn. And we learned how to interpret all these, and I just have to go back to my notes. But I could definitely give you both feedback on your scans for sure.
And I think,
Okay.
we all love data here. It's not the end all be all. Like I think we want to
No.
come back to intuition and symptoms,
Mhm.
at history and looking at exposures. But if you're not feeling something, might as well get a little bit of data and just tell you like how can you possibly improve this? Like what if I have
hmm
an impending problem that I don't know about?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Somebody sent me a machine online and it sits in the closet, but it's supposed to do it at home. It's a fraction of the price. I'd love to bring it to a show. That's what I should do when InBody is there, and I should just scan. We should go back and forth and see what the range is. I'm sure
Hmm.
we will come up. I'm sure we're going to come up with a wearable very soon for
Hmm.
intracellular extracellular fluid ratio, which is awesome
Wow.
at the same time. Sad to me that we don't know what hydration feels like. It's all so confusing.
Yeah, do you want to
Hmm.
talk about that? Because I I've learned the brain's not really so good at giving cues when
Mm,
it doesn't sense hydration. Like your thirst tends to be separate from actual body hydration for a
that's
lot
right. That's
of
right. I
people.
think performance is what I always prompt people. Was like, well, how's your mental acuity? How's your energy? How do your tendons feel? We've all felt like stiff and really achy. Have you ever felt in a state where you're really fluid and everything's kind of moving and grooving? I like to look at that before I just go off and go spend some exorbitant amount of money on a test or a new solution for it.
Yeah.
Solve for the problem when it's there. I think to your point, and I've heard you say this, Lauren, we can get really caught up in listening to someone talk about data and then decide, oh, I need to go do that. And then we start solving for this thing that we don't even need. And so I think it's always going to come back to hyper personalized medicine. How
Mhm.
are you doing? What's your sleep like? What's your hydration? What's your level of satiation? A lot of times I will confuse me, Freddie Kimmel, I will confuse hunger for being thirsty.
Hmm.
Like I was like, oh, I'll need to eat something, but I know enough now and I've seen how my body works with hydration. And if a lot of times if I go do, a great big, I drink out of a pickle jar at the house. Just
Nice.
because it's like a nice
Hi.
33 ounces. It's nice. Just the label's still falling off, but
Hmm.
a Bubby's pickle jar. I know how many of these I need to have. And if I do one of these with minerals and a little a little creatine, which really helps when I'm dehydrated, creatine, 10 grams, really I can notice the change in cognition from my body.
Just pulls the hydration.
Wow.
Really notice the difference. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating.
But
I
do
get
you
so
drink the
nervous
pickle
talking
juice?
about this.
Oh,
Wait,
getting thirsty. Do you drink the pickle juice though before you use the jar?
I do, yeah.
Love pickle juice.
I
It's so
love
good.
pickle juice.
Yeah.
Cured it.
That's all you
I wanted
need.
to circle back to lymphatic massage because you talked about the lymph being very surface or subcutaneous.
hmm
It's like a hard massage is going to bypass that. And I've had a lot of clients ask me, "Oh, can I just get a massage to help my lymph?" And I say no. Um, I think what I really want to know is what are the dangers potentially of doing a lot of deep massage and bypassing, or maybe doing lymphatic massage and not being ready for it.
Mm. Well, I think from my inner circle, I'm around a lot of lymphatic drainage specialists right now. I've done this for 10, 20, 30 years. They're always going to tell you to go low and slow, and less is more. With a with the technology, or like Flowpresso, or even a lymphatic drainage, it's usually like a once a week thing. And if you thought about this idea of, if I'd never worked lymphatic and I'm 47 years old and I'm gonna go at this hard, imagine the environmental burden that I'm gonna start releasing from the fats and the cells that are gonna go through this drainage triangle, and then my body may or may not be equipped to deal with that all. So I think it's really, a typical full body lymphatic drainage manual therapy is probably around 90 minutes, depending on your therapist and their rate of skill. And that's going to be you're going to have very different skill sets in that realm. Very different skill sets. It's not the most pleasurable experience. Like it doesn't feel like a lot, but what I've noticed, and because Desiree's worked on me before, and she actually did a workshop in Austin. We worked on about 20 we did a manual therapy drainage day, and we worked on bellies. I kind of observed. I let people work on my belly because I'm not a licensed massage therapist, licensed for touch. But when took pictures of everybody's belly, and then we did the after, and you had abs. Like you had abs afterwards, and it was all fluid that was held in that belly. I was really amazed by how much moved around. I've also done work in the face, head, and neck from therapists, and I think maybe because of singing, maybe I have like a dental thing on this side, my jaw and my larynx moved in my throat was really wild. Like I noticed my singing range was really incredible after I did the face, head, and neck.
Wow.
Also, you know, we I think it's 2012 that the medical establishment said we've discovered the glymphatic system, which drains the brain. They discovered it in 2012. Well, ancient medicine has been working with this system for a long time, but the brain has its own drainage system known as the glymphatic pathways. And a lot of those levers or counter levers, there's points in the nose, in the mask, at the base of the neck, behind the ears that are going to impact how the brain drains, as well as how the plates move together in the skull. And that is something that within the Dresden protocol for dementia and Alzheimer's is one of the go-to pillars. If you're early onset dementia, they're going to go have you start to do this therapy to try to alleviate the swelling and the fluid buildup within the brain.
Mm.
As we know, a lot of these environmental toxicants that we first talked about all cross the blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier is an electrical voltage charge that's disrupted through all the things that we have access to. Probably this headset right now is allowing things to go in and out of my brain. So I am also aware that that is an area that we want to both complement and address, just like I'd brush my teeth. You know, just like I would. Hey, I want to do 10,000 steps. I just did it today. I keep Flow Vibrate, with as a vibrational wand, in the drink compartment in my Jeep. So usually when I drive, I do a quick five. Every time I get in the car, I try to do it.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
get mine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
I'm
So
like, I got.
she has all the tools. So the glymphatic system, my understanding is when you're sleeping,
Hmm.
there is somewhat of a, oh, there she got her toy. There is a pump for that, correct?
Yes, there is. I mean, I would say that when we're in it, it is certain phases of the deep sleep cycle in which the brain is privy to or open to draining and without
Right.
going into those certain deep wavelengths. My understanding that was associated with that deep parasympathetic tone that pump started to function. Now, I'm not an expert on glymphatic or brain drainage, but I know that is a piece of it. I
Yeah.
do also know mechanically you can complement that, Renee, by sleeping on a slight. People will actually pitch the head of their bed up by a few degrees, so they're sleeping on a little bit of a slant. This was
Mm.
something that was a therapy that some of the way out there Lyme doctors back in the day when people were dealing with the neuro Lyme, and the infections were crossing blood brain, that they were teaching people either to buy a wedge in their mattress, so their whole body was wedged at night and sleeping on an incline to complement that drainage, along with kind of nurturing a lifestyle or 3 or 4 steps to make sure that sleep biome is ready, and you're going to have a really good deep night's sleep. Now, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that can disrupt sleep, especially when the body feels like it's under attack. It's hard. It's not as simple as just I'm going to do these 3 things and it happens, right?
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Supporting the lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
another show and tell, because I want you to talk about Flowpresso technology, but this is a handheld. It's not a sexual toy. It is a lymphatic. Oh, double time.
Oh, mine's
Mm-hmm.
downstairs.
Let's go. We got two. So tell us what this mini device is. Very portable.
Yeah. So this is Flow Vibe, and it's a wand that has 3 vibrational speeds. Speed 1 is for the face, head, and neck, and then speeds 2 and 3 are below the collarbone. And it's just like it sounds like. It looks like a vibrator. It is a vibrator. However, it's got this malleable head that really meets the skin in a nice way. And I would do like I'd brush my teeth, I'd kind of do a pathway. I'll try not to hit the mic, but I do the base of the neck 7 times. I like to say sevens. I go behind the ear, in front of the ear, under the eye. I swooping down. I'm water shedding above the eye, always working down. And 5 minutes is great. The base, don't forget the base of the neck here. You can even do the scalp. That really feels really wonderful. And vibration is opposed to. Oh, I had a gua sha, like a piece of metal or a
Oh, yeah.
bone, a whale bone to gua sha. It's
Great
it's
thing.
more gentle, and vibration impacts has a different impact on fluid dynamics. Again, I'm not an engineer or a scientist, but the, there is strong data to support that vibration really helps the movement of the fluid in these different compartments of the face, head, and neck and other areas of the body differently than a mechanical therapy or a hand. So it's funny. The Flowpresso, this is new. Nobody knows this. It's up on the website. They just launched a new wand, which is a medical wand. It's a Flow Vibrate 2, and it is for lymphedema patients. So this is women who have had nodes removed from their armpits. It is for people that have had a stasis in the body and they're experiencing lymphedema. And what they found is just working on the face, head, and neck with this new wand. It's orange. It's still a brand color, but it's orange. Decreased lower limb volume in I think everybody who used it. The stats are up on the website. I really they're just launching it right now. But this is something where people are going to be able to go and they're like they'll be and any think about all the people who have been through breast cancer, all the people who have lymph nodes removed, all the people who experience lymphedema. It's a pocket tool that vibrates, and they've done the research and said this is what this tool does. Here's who it's for. Here's who it complements. So again, I'm always like applauding Desiree who invents all this stuff because she's a nut with the research. She wants to be sure she's always in integrity, and she proves it out. But it's a really effective tool. It's really wild. Yeah.
Does
So
it have more modes?
It's got specific frequencies, Renee, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's could be 35 hertz, but there are
I do
different
see
hertz.
35 hertz. Yeah.
So it's 35 is I think there's the most robust scientific evidentiary proof to show that that vibrational pattern is best for lymph. And she's seen a lot of great results with that wand. And this is whatever the wand costs, we're talking about tools around $100. I'm not sure that one might be a little bit more because it went through the regulatory process, but really, again, I just applaud her for all the stuff she's doing for people. And if you know anybody who does go through breast cancer or radiation or different surgeries, and it's a daily battle to minimize swelling. You can get some really intense swelling in the arms and the hands, especially after we change the lymphatic flow in the axillary nodes. And there's other things that happen, right? It's not just fluid balance. Again, we talked about the immune system. We talked about the removal of toxins. We talked about nervous system tone. So it's a really good topic to kind of go in and use this podcasts like this, conversations like this, to be your jumping off point. And go learn about this stuff because it's so important. And so my stepsister just finished her. I won't say her name on the podcast. I didn't get permission to talk about her, but I don't think she'd mind. She just finished her 4th round of chemotherapy for breast cancer. She went for her very first mammogram ever, and she had nodules in her armpits, I think in her neck, in her breast. She'd had no symptoms whatsoever.
uh-huh.
So she's going through this right now. So she's actually, so funny. I just asked my stepmom, I'm like, what should I send her? I'm like, clean coffee, supplements. I should send her a wand is what I should send. So
Send her a
Yeah.
wand. Yeah.
send her a
What a
wand.
great gift.
Yeah.
You mentioned the frequency, optimal frequency.
Mhm.
Same for vibration plates around the 30 to 35 hertz.
You know, I don't know from my understanding, the most research associated with a plate is going to be power plate. I know there's a bunch of plates out there, but I think power plate has research on
Program.
yeah, on specific frequencies, different programs. They're going to be, for me, they're going to be the research.
Mm.
It's, I had texted you, Lauren, I'm like, all the things we could talk about. It's like removing the, what is the science between we get in this world of biohacking and longevity and optimization. And then as a consumer, you read the thing about the tool and you're like, oh my God, it's going to solve all my problem. And it's a panacea. And it's never that way. But I was just at an event and I was across from a company that was selling vibration plates and it was very flashy. They had lights that blinked and they got
Oh,
6 plates going and everybody's like,
music.
oh yeah, music pumping. I'm like, I feel like I'm at a carnival. And everybody's getting on the plates. They're like, oh my God, these are amazing. They're like, and the guys are like, here's the research. And there's a book of research, not associated with air tech, associated with the vibration. And they're like, just it just says research on the book, and everybody's like, here it is. They just pass it around. Nobody opens the book. And they're selling this plate. And I can tell you, I know enough about the world of technology development and innovation of what's made where and what things cost and an exorbitant gross markup on this product from what and where it was from. And there's a dramatic, and they were, of course, they're like trashing, the one product in the market that actually has research from their product because, once one guy dies in the cross and spends the millions of dollars to the research, then everybody else can just make sort of the same thing and sort of piggyback on it. So
Yeah.
it's the nature of unconscious capitalism and it's the world we live in. Don't hate the game. But again, is we listen to shows like this. It's a great time to just you go out and ask the right questions, right? Well, is this what you're presenting to me? Is this unique to your product? Or is this on all vibration plates? Is this unique to 35 hertz? Was it delivered in a silicone waterproof shield? What were the treatments like? How many times was this repeated? How many people were involved in this study? Especially in the longevity space, I find there are quick imitators who are going to run to market with a subpar product. We just saw this a few years ago within the ice bath world. Do you remember when there was like a Morosco Forge and there was like Blue Cube and there was like just a couple? And then
Three. And now there's 30.
now there's 3,000. There's 3,000 and many of those companies have gone bankrupt and closed and this is, contrast therapy helps with lymph.
Mm-hmm.
But we can think, well, movement, what qualifies as so anybody could make that claim, right? I'm selling the
Yeah.
first jump rope that moves lymph. I've got the lymph rope.
Oh,
Okay,
lymph rope.
I would buy that.
Did you
just
trademark
made it
that?
up.
Show me the picture. You
It's
definitely opened a can of worms, and this is it's a scary thing to be a health consumer. But I
yeah,
mainly asked because I think with vibration plates, people usually default to like the higher the frequency, the better, and
yeah.
that's not true.
Again, it's not my area of expertise. I find that in general, my rule that I can always stand by is you cannot we cannot force people into a different political opinion. You cannot force people into relationship. You cannot force the body into a place that it's not willing to be. Without a conversation with your nervous system, it's an invitation. So I'll always default to that. 9 times out of 10, I find the less is more unless you're going for a shock therapy and then the rebound that would happen from that. And that's very real too, right? We can create an injury in the body by puncturing the knee with a bunch of needles. And we can say, well, I hope the innate immune repair system comes in and does everything right. Well, that could go super bad, right?
Yeah.
This is a super big, very well written doctor that everybody talks about online and knows all the things and written all the books who just had a really bad stem cell procedure and has got a really bad infection in his spine. And, turns out, just injecting a joint and not changing anything else might not work out well. Like there's a lot of stuff that can go sideways with these things. I don't say that to
Mm.
make people afraid. I just say, if there was a thing to listen to, it's like, is my body ready for this? Is my nervous system in a place to work with this medicine? Medicine being exercise or a supplement or
Mhm.
plant medicine, whatever you want to say, right? I think
Yeah.
you've got to meet your body where it's at. So I find it to be less is more.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the other thing I'd say
Yeah.
with that is like, do you want to have to use the wand every day before you leave the house to have like good drainage?
I would say no, but
That's
if you like it, I mean, it's very calming. It
it
feels nice,
feels great.
but
It
I don't want to
feels
be attached to a device.
I don't want to be attached to anything. So I'm like, where is the so I look at the again in my understanding of the lymphatic system, and I'm a self-taught human. I'm not seeing people in clinical practice. I do talk to a lot of people about lymphatic flow, and I have quite a bit of experience. Spent two years now really like living in this world of like how do we work with this system? What are the bioregulatory properties? Why is it here? A lot of people in this system, and that you can get it moving, and once you've got it in motion, then you should be able to start spacing some of these things out. Now we've
Mm.
got these other rules of nature that says, well, we're all aging and we're gonna die, and all these systems like our our limited count of stem cells or how many beats I have in my heart, right? We're losing those over time. So there is that kind of teeter-totter thing where like, well, I want to be able to be as functional as I can be for as long as I can be. So I think, without trading away your life for living in a little bucket of like devices and wellness, you got to find the right balance for you.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
thousand percent. A thousand percent.
Yeah.
So speaking of devices, so where does the Flowpresso full body suit and treatment come in? This is not something people are buying and putting in their house. I think you even said you're not using it every day. Like, what's the use case here for that?
I would say the system, I'd say the system is trying to standardize a really good lymphatic drainage massage while adding in the benefits of both heat and nervous system entrainment. So, as I said before,
Okay.
a manual therapy drainage massage, for me, I was like, I didn't love it. I'm like, it didn't feel like good or bad. It just felt like real gentle, soft touch.
Hmm.
And the Flowpresso it's just like a spacesuit. You wrap your feet and your legs and your belly and your arms, and maybe you use some of these vibrational tools in your armpits or your face, head, and neck. And it's like being wrapped in a spacesuit, and it's like the best warm hug you've ever had. A manual
It feels so
therapist
good.
would work from they would work from the subclavian. They'd start here around the face, head, and neck. They open the drain, and then they work proximal to distal. So they go here to here. Flowpresso works from distal to proximal. It starts the pressure wave at the feet, but unlike the human hands, it can work bilaterally. So we can get this bilateral squeeze for 5 seconds on the feet, and then the ankles, and then the calves. And because of the lymphatic system is a closed system, we're working up the body needing like a tube of toothpaste. So the fluid is being squeezed up and through, and we're getting this wave that starts over every 2 or 3 minutes. And this, when this is primed and open here at the base of the neck, and as a result of like where's the fluid going to go, it's eventually moved up into this back into the circulatory system, and it's draining back into the circulatory system, and then the body processes through the organs of elimination. So the science is such that it's this bilateral wave of pressure. There's 22 chambers in the suit, and we're adding another thing that the human hands can't do, and that's the suit can heat from, I think the default on the new FDA model is 86 degrees. I think it goes up to 104 Fahrenheit. So we can change
Hmm.
the temperature or the thermotherapy on every area that I could heat the feet, or just turn off the heat everywhere. I could just heat the belly and the peritoneum. So we can work with different body types and what the needs are. So it's this hyper customized tool that takes away like, is my therapist going to show up? Are they going to be able to do 5 sessions at the same quality every single day? Are they going to ask for a raise in 3 months? You know, as it, it's hard work, 90 minutes of this slow work. It's hard on your back and your wrists and your fingers. How long do you have as a practitioner in this career? So a lot of therapists are like, oh, can I complement my practice, with Flowpresso? And then we've got people like Rob Whitfield, who has, I trained Rob's team with Desiree. He's got 3 Flowpressos in the office before everybody goes in for augmentation or a breast explant surgery or reconstruction. They do Flowpressos. And that
Awesome.
allows Rob to do that procedure without drains. He gets better
Mm.
results, better healing. And then after the procedure, under medical guidance, these surgeons are using these. Lauren and Renee, your dad is working with like this master network of circuitry which runs to every single organ, working with biological dentistry. So you start to mobilize and move all these toxins, and it makes a lot of sense for us to help unburden the system after we may loosen up bacteria or mercury or whatever we put into the bloodstream. So that's another area of these biological dentists. I think the fascia component of healing, our biggest users right now are chiropractors, because I think it's fascinating. We kind of alluded to this. It's like, you can beat a muscle or a knot into submission, but at the end of the day, the nervous system is either choosing to hold the tension index and not allowing the energy to transfer through that joint, right? And as far
Yeah.
as like a strength, it could be stepping and walking. Think about the transfer of energy as you walk. You're creating tightness. So you either have fascia that's restricted, or you have a nervous system that's creating a problem in the area. And the Flowpresso kind of attacks both of those angles. So it really makes a lot of sense. Again, for this full body, it's a non-touch therapy, but you're kind of getting this great, best warm hug you've ever had. So I think it solves for that. And again, the biggest, some people see it and they're like, yes. I have a CrossFit clinic in not in Raleigh. It's in where are they? Are they in Asheville?
Oh, I wish they were in Raleigh.
They're
What
not in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Uh
name?
where are they? His name's Rich. Rich, he's gonna kill me. I forgot his name. They have, they have the ARX, they have the Flowpresso, they have Nano V, they have oxygen therapy, but it's in the stack for everybody. He's not like the people with swelling. He's like, no, we get this
Buddy.
is you do this, you do muscles, we oxygenate, you do lymph. So it's part of this
Awesome.
full body longevity profile. And I certainly think the way that we sit in this chronic epidemic of disease, like I'm waiting for the day that like somebody from this world that is trying to change the disease paradigm just reached out and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know we could do this to have this conversation around environmental toxicity. It's like it's an absolute. Like for me, it's an absolute for a longevity hack. And you don't need to do it all the time, but like, I frame for people, if you were to get the system moving in 6 to 10 sessions, then just do a tune-up once in a while. You should be
Mm,
good, right? But in
okay.
this day, in this age, of this incarnation, it's a licensed health practitioner. And I think for the reasons we said, if you move a lot of stuff through your lymphatic system, if you use the suit inappropriately, like I did, because I can be a little cavalier at times, then you're going to overwhelm the system, and that's not what we want. We always want safety first. So,
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
FDA Class 2 device, it's licensed health practitioners, and that's I think it also sets those practitioners up with another tool in their toolbox to really help people with a longevity and also some of these complex cases.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Full spectrum. And just my own experience, because I think I'm more on the preventative side, or,
Hmm.
some congestion, I'm sure I could support, but I'm not having real big issues. But just did the Flowpresso last week, and I've been having a lot of back pain off and on.
Hmm.
It's a complex situation. There's a lot of variables here, but I haven't had any back
Mm.
pain since I did Flowpresso last week.
I love that.
Wow. That's amazing, Laura.
Yeah.
About the warm hug, it could not be more true. Once that
Oh,
thing
I want
heated,
it right now.
you do not want to get out. You do not want to get
No.
out. The more time you're in there, the more you do not want to get out. That thing feels so amazing. There's nothing like it. Nothing
Yeah.
like it.
I always I set it for 20. Like, and I'm like, Cynthia, can you just stop it at 20? And then she comes back in. I'm like,
Not enough.
just I'm like I'm like,
That's
let
yeah.
it. I'm like, let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let it run.
Because I'm always
Come back
conscious of
later.
time. I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I shouldn't take this long out of the workday, blah, 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 blah. I come up with this silly excuse, but yeah, you don't want to get out. No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
Incredible.
Oh, I'm like
So,
looking up. There's one in Vegas that looks like there's a chiropractor here.
oh
There's
yeah,
a,
people
there's
find
a,
partners.
yeah, they have a couple suits there. I think they have two.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I
Can you
need this.
share where we find practitioners? Where do we find?
You go to flowpressousa.com and you go to the locator, the locator map, and you just put in your
Yeah.
zip code. There's quite a few. There's over 400 in the U.S. There's going to be states where it's sparse. It's funny, New York and New Jersey are so sparse. There is
Mm.
now a manual therapist on the east side of the city. There's a biological dentist, but it's more private practice. Jerry Caratola. There's one out in Jersey. There's a longevity center out in North Jersey now that they have a lot of great stuff. That I've sent people to a couple times. There's a bunch in Austin. So they're
Oh, I
making their
bet.
way around. Obviously, the Julian Center.
Possibly
Yay!
Ellicott City, Maryland. Come
Ellicott
on.
City, Melican.
Yep.
We've got a really integrated PT center in where are they? They're right in the DC area. Yeah, it's growing. It's just, I think everybody's trying to figure out how to best serve their clientele. And so many of the therapies that we get to experience, be it, frequency or red light or IVs, and it's not often you walk away from an experience and you're like, whoa, that felt incredible. And I think I'm obviously very biased because I work for Flowpresso. I just think I try to not confirm my bias. I just think it's one of the coolest somatic things that I've done.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Everyone needs to experience it for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's special. Yeah, and if you're a licensed health practitioner, you can just, you can reach out to me and I can find you a demo, or we can have the conversation about getting one, and it's pretty quick. You could learn to use it really well in a week and be up and running. Most people are 2 weeks, so they get it up on the website and they get the staff trained and certified because we have a certification process online.
Mm.
And then we have a live portion of that with our naturopath on staff, but yeah, it's great. I just love it.
Awesome. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
We want
Yeah.
everyone
Any,
to experience it.
yeah, yeah. Any maybe final words about the lymphatic system? Do you feel like there's anything we missed that people need to know? Or did we do a good range of topics there?
Yeah, we can easily, we can look at an anatomy chart and we can look at the lymphatic system. And as I said, everybody should do that. Go look at how it overlays the circulatory system and look at the synergy there. I think
Yeah.
that there is I really notice there's a profound energetic shift for me when I'm in the suit and I get a really good session. And I'm like, man, do I feel in my body? And I think that's something. It's not just anatomy. There's more to it. It's like we talk about the environmental burden and what we're dealing with in society today, and but there's also, again, my body is what chooses to let go. What am I choosing to hold on to, and what am I not willing to let go of? There's a piece there that is within whatever, the supercomputer that is like however much red pill or blue pill I'm holding on to, whatever it is, that I'm deciding that it's all very like steps and levers and buttons and I'm a machine. I'm not a machine. It's like a divine quantum computer which integrates with everything on the energetic and physical level. It's so big. And I think, again, when we get in that place of just this deep knowing that I know it's happening for me, when I know there is the potential for growth, when I know how magical the human body is, it starts to get fun to work with some of those things, even though they can feel challenging at the time. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. All said.
Yeah.
I love going to the Freddie School of Health.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'll work on a name. I'll work on a name for that
Inside
though.
Freddie's brain.
That's my
Yeah.
program.
Is there any,
For
I feel
sure.
like that was wonderful final advice, but do you want to share anything else? It could be completely unrelated, something that you want to share with our audience, something they can start doing today to optimize anything that could benefit their existence on this planet.
Yeah, I think we have to, um, we don't have to do anything. I think if you're compelled, I think in this age of information, there's a funny meme I was sharing last week, and it was like, I can't sleep. Let me stare at this blue light supercomputer with the information of the entire world to see if I lull myself into a slumber before I go to bed. It's so good. Let me see if this helps.
Yeah.
Um, I,
Yeah,
I
I've
think
seen
in
that.
this
I've
day
seen
of
that.
this day of information overload, we've got to start to step back and in this conversation of radical ownership of health, where I have you got to start stepping back and at some point you'll be full of opinions and you'll be full of information and you got to start to build your own knowledge, which is it's going to be directly correlated to you and your body and your inner knowing, your inner voice. And so however you can develop that. But I think it's a really interesting time. I'm always asking myself this. I'm like, well, what more do I need? What more do I need to know? It's like I'm pretty clear on or continually re-examining you like my road of learning the body and health and all these different weird experiences that I've had. But I am currently writing in the morning, and I'm like, well, stop giving generalities. Like, really, I'm writing an outline for myself, you know, and it's really looking at like the journey through like what is the paradigm? And like I've got like my 8 non-negotiables that are like if I ignore it for too long, be it lymph, be it light, be it sleep, be it elite nutrition, be it purpose. That's a big one. Where, and that's going to change for people a lot of time. What is the purpose that's filling your sails? I know it's so easy to get full with information that I've felt like this, that I feel like not dead inside, but I'm like, I just sort of feel numb from all the information. And
Yeah.
I'm questioning, it's like, well, what about my what about my joy? Like how much time of the day have I set aside to like do something that's just fun and just play, be it, you know, taking the puppy for a walk or going to a trampoline park or singing or going to, I went to Jersey Boys last night in Austin, Texas, our regional production of Jersey Boys,
Oh,
which was so fun.
so fun.
So fun. I mean, I cried, sat next to some people. We had a great connection, you know.
Ah, I love that show.
I loved listening to these people experience theater. And if you know anything about Jersey Boys, maybe the audience knows this. It's the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, but at first it was the Four Seasons. There's an equal, you know, role of players. And so you follow these characters throughout the storyline. And at the end of the play, each one gets up and they each have an opportunity to close their story. And it's great because it's like, this is what happened from my perspective. And none of this would have happened without me. Or the most special moment for me when it was all starting when you first made that sound. Or, and I'm watching this thing, I was like, oh my goodness, everybody has their own unfolding reality. And it's so real for them. And because at one point in the unfolding of this story, Jersey Boys, no one was willing to entertain the idea that their story was not the valid one. So for a big chunk of time, you know, those guys parted ways for 20 years. And then they had the magic of reconvening in this story on the stage of the Hall of Fame. You know, so it goes in the script. But I was like, man, this is so topical, and how cool to be able to step back and view theater, you know, from a different perspective now that I'm not so in it. It just bring me so much joy, and I have so much appreciation for the vehicle that is theater. And you know, brought up left stuff. I was like, God, I wish we got paid like NFL players because I think we're more valuable. Like, I wish, you know, I hate that we have all this access to tech because I talk about my friends about, oh, I'm like, you should get a shockwave and you should get stem cells and you should. They're like, I'm paying lunch this week. This is all I got, right? So
Yeah,
you
we're very
see,
fortunate.
we're very fortunate. But I think it's just so important to go, you know, look at these non-negotiables that are so important for you. Try to establish a framework in which you can kind of see through the woods because it's real thick with information right now. And I have a trouble navigating it. So I'm kind of in this creative mode right now where I'm writing it out for myself and I'm kind of building like a structure, you know, that I may or may not teach at some point in the future. But it really allows me to separate again this unconscious capitalism or the hyper marketing and everything, be it a pharmaceutical commercial to a biohacking device, is going to end all your pain. It's not what it's about. Everything, like I said this yesterday to somebody, I was like, oh my God, everything falls away. All we're left with is the quality of the love and relationships we've curated through life. And that's kind of wound into your soul. Everything else we can throw to the side. And yeah, I just think it's
Yeah.
like go get a piece of paper and get going in your journaling. It's just pull it
Yeah.
back, pull it back, pull it back.
Oh, that's such a great message. I've been thinking about all of like what you just said recently. Like, it just, yeah, you feel like, oh, I need to always be learning and buying new things and biohacking. And then I'm like, at the end of the day, like, what is this really all about?
Hmm. You
What
have
is
to have
this really?
fun.
Yeah, you have to have fun. And also, I love that you said joy. I have a family member going through cancer treatment right now, and she's so hyper focused on doing all the things. She's doing traditional and alternative,
Hmm.
blending it, but it's a lot. It's consuming her life.
Mm.
And her naturopath said on a recent call, What are you doing every day to experience joy?
Hmm.
She was
I
like,
love that.
oh, that's so important. It's so
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
so
So thank
important.
you for that message. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's
Joy,
easy
but
to
also
lose.
about the
It's
learning. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just it's so easy to lose sight of. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. And anytime I go back to just like, okay, how can I make this really fun? What are the fun? I mean, this is so fun for me. I'm like, yeah, like get on and like talk to my friends for an hour. It's really sort of a podcast, but not really. We're like, you know,
I think
it's
I'm
just,
recording, right?
yeah. Yeah, well, we'll just do
Whoops.
it again.
Oh, we'll do it again. We will do it again. But yeah, just
Yeah.
one more reflection you said about the learning. We can learn by consuming, but I tend to learn the most about myself by writing, as you said.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
discovering my own truths and reflecting. Like that's the learning about my body.
Yeah.
I
You
do
know what?
think I have a bigger balance of that.
Yeah, you know what I've been doing? I have I have like the Chat GPT 4 and like I've got some like agents that I've made. So I've loaded it and it's got like a memory, a knowledge base, maybe it has some authors, PDFs or their life work, like Einstein or whatever. And I'll do the audio and we'll talk. So we'll like have a conversation. I'm like, hey, I was like, this is what I'm feeling right now. And it's really fun. Like yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It's wild. It's
Okay, we're gonna
wild.
have to do a little mastermind on that. You got to fill me in how to do that.
It's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Very
It's a great way to remove your bias because as you know, that's really easy to do too. The Renee, when you just said
Yeah.
alternative, I have like such a uh aversion to that word when we talk about
I know. I don't really
alternative.
know why that came out of my mouth.
No, it's that's I say it once in a while, but it is all it's like, well, what does that mean? Like
Why is
alternative to
that the
what?
alternative?
It's not. It's
Yeah.
complementary medicine and more and like
Complimentary.
I said this to somebody else the other day. It's like every single device that I started working out with, like that everybody said was so woo woo in the past, every single company has a version of their thing that's FDA or a sister company. Everybody. Like it's all been through the regulatory process. It's all been proven out, but like 8 years ago, it's like, oh wow, that's so woo woo. It's so what tell me about this alternative medicine. I have my podcast marked as alternative health, and I was like, I don't understand how to change it. What do you guys have yours marked as?
I think we might have the same.
Alternative health?
I
I'm
think
like,
so. It's
wow.
been a while since I've looked at it. I know it is such a weird word.
We used to be nutrition. I think we flipped it a few times. It is so hard. How do you categorize yourself? Because it's all things.
It's self-improvement,
Don't
really.
put us in a box. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Why
It's
pick one?
self-improvement, really. Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
we'll
Hmm.
take a run at that category.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, thank you for helping us to improve in so many ways. This is joy. You were a
Such a
joy. Thank
such a
you.
treat. Always a joy.
Yeah. This is great.
Where can
Renee,
people
whenever you want, we can get you guys on. We'll talk about teeth.
Okay.
my teeth? Tell us where to
Anytime.
find more Freddie Kimmel.
You can go to beautifullybroken.world. That's the website and all the things, the blogs, the store, the podcasts. And then you can go to freddie.kimmel on Instagram. And then we have a YouTube channel, Beautifully Broken World. That's where I put all my musings today. And then Flowpresso is flowpressousa.com. And I'm part of that team and family. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, like LightPath
Great.
LED and Team Amp Coil, all the things, right? But
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
where, yeah, that's kind of where I had a great podcast today with the first double hand and face transplant survivor in the world from
I
Jersey.
saw that.
Oh, I
I'm
saw
excited.
that. I haven't listened. I just listened to the early cancer detection one. That was a great episode, by the way.
Yeah, he's great.
But
Wait till you hear this reel. I made it last night. I kept crying from making this reel with this young 26-year-old kid who I was
he's
like, oh
that
my God,
young.
he's young. I yeah, I was like, I was like the stuff I've been through is absolutely nothing. He had no fingers. He had 80% of his skin was gone. No face, none. He had to make eyes for him so he could go outside and not burn his retinas. I mean, and he's like doing a t-shirt company in his garage. I'm like, it's just the scope. Yeah, I was like, whatever you guys think is hard in your life, Joe has a different perspective of hard. And yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's doing it. He's doing it. It's trooper. Trooper,
Wow.
young kid. Yep.
Amazing story.
Amazing story. Yeah,
Okay,
there's
we'll link
amazing
to that
stories.
too for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's amazing people doing really good stuff if you want to find them out there. And then there's people doing really maddening, triggering things, and I'm sure you can find that too.
You can find it all.
You can find it all here on planet Earth.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
We
you.
shall see you again on the Biohacker Babes.
Okay. I love you.
All right.
Okay.
Love you too.
Don't leave
All
just
right.
yet. Thank you
I
to
won't.
everyone tuning
Yeah.
in. We'll see you next time.